Well, welcome to the final week of our Refresh, Renew, Restart Relationship series. I'm going to miss that couple. They've been great. Next week, we're moving on to Mother's Day, and we've got some really exciting stuff planned for this summer. And if you're new with us, my name's John. I'm the pastor here, and I want to welcome you. And man, I don't know how your week went, but we had some crazy stuff going on at my house. My son has learned how to remove his diaper from his person. And he's 2 and not potty trained at all yet. So that's a problem. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You have to wear clothes. You're my son. This isn't Roselawn. You're not like my son Colony. Okay? Put it on. Put it on here. You know? Stop it. But it's just my life. So with that being said, no one's perfect. Everyone's welcome here, guys. I don't pretend to be your perfect pastor because I'm not. And I got problems. But anyway, this has been a fun series. We've had 5 weeks. And what I love about each week is I've been looking at the teachings of Jesus and applying it to relationships. And I just think it's so cool that Jesus isn't some outdated guy who was, thousands of years ago. His teaching is relevant today, and statistically, following his plans for relationship leads to the highest level of life satisfaction relationally. Christians are the most satisfied people on earth, which is just amazing to think about. Like, here's this guy 2,000 years ago who lays out this way of life, and he's actually right 2,000 years later because God's word transcends time. And as our creator, he understands us. Now, this week, I want to talk about relentless pursuit. And I'm going to be honest, this should have been a 2 or 3 week message. And I had to cut a ton out. The concept I'm talking about is the capstone for this whole series. It's super important, and I was like saving it for the end, and I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And then I got here, I'm writing the message. I'm like, oh, there's so much, though, that I have to cut out. So you're going to miss it all, but it'll be all right. It's in my head. I'll share it with you guys sometime later. But anyway, this week on Monday, if you were watching the news, the top of all the newsreels was a Cigna Health survey that was released. And CNN, MSNBC, NPR, we're all talking about this Cigna Health project that showed that Americans are more lonely than ever. And it was kind of surprising to see that the younger you got, the more lonely that you've gotten. And that's actually been flipped from traditional research returns. It's traditionally, the older you got, the more lonely you got because your friends passed away. But now we see that the younger generation is so afflicted with loneliness that they're way, way more lonely than previous generations. And this is difficult. Loneliness is difficult. Non-Christians, and especially deconverted Christians, those are people who grew up in faith and walked away from it, were very lonely. And it wasn't because of an ostracism in their family due to walking away from the faith. Typically, it was because of knowing what a faith community felt like and losing that faith community from your life by choosing to walk away from it. Half of all Americans are very lonely. Loneliness results in a lot of physical health issues. Loneliness increases your chance of heart disease and stroke, reduces the strength of your immune system, and lowers your propensity to recover from cancer. So that's hard. Loneliness has serious issues in our life. This is why I love Jesus' wisdom. When we were called by Jesus to love one another in the same way that he loved us, right? That was our key from 2 weeks ago. He wasn't kidding. He knew that this is what leads to the highest level of life satisfaction. As our creator, he understood this. And this is why Christians are far less lonely, as a matter of fact, than those who are not Christians. Which is one of a million different reasons why I've chosen not to follow the religion of atheism, right? Secular humanism and atheism, the fastest growing religions in America today, they don't lead to life satisfaction, right? And I understand, like, on a statistical level, I don't have enough faith to follow that because I can't ignore facts, right? I'm a realist. I look at the facts around us. I know that the God of the Bible is the one true God. But I look at this and I'm like, man, this is hurting people. This hurts people. And you might have a bad experience with church from the outside. You might have even gone to church a long time ago and you've had a bad experience with church on the inside. That's why you stopped going. But regardless of that, I am convinced, both biblically and statistically, that over the course of a lifetime, following Christ connected to his church is the best choice that you can make for life satisfaction and for stability in future generations. Today's message is for people who are lonely and relationally dissatisfied. If your marriage or your other relationships leave you wishing for more, I want you to lean in because today is for you. I'm going to teach you one fundamental concept about pursuit that I think has the potential to really bless your life today. I want to bring it to you. I'm going to give you this one main point, and then at the very end of the talk, I have a big challenge that I think is going to be good, so bear with me. Now, today is going to be contextualized for married Christians. I've kind of written a lot of the examples and stuff for married Christians. But if you are in any kind of relationship, whether you're single, you're dating, you got friends or family that you're worried about, this message will work for that as well. And also for non-Christians. If you're not a Christian, the wisdom that I'll give you today will still be good for you. I remember when I first started following Jesus, I was 15 years old, and I've had varying levels of faith after that. I gave my life to Christ, and there were times in my life where my faith was great, and other times where I really struggled. But at 15, I became a Christian, and I love the Lord. I was so excited. I thought, I'm going to be a pastor. And I remember doing this thing where I would see other people's lives who were farther along in their faith than I was. I would see these pastors who had these big churches, and I thought, I want their life. Have you ever looked at somebody's life and thought, I want that? I want what they have. I remember I started talking about that. I thought it'd be so cool if one of these pastors retires and then they give me their life. My dad, he confronted me. He said, John, do you know what you're doing? I said, what? He goes, you're coveting, right? Coveting. It's one of the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not covet. He says, you're sinning. I said, really? I'm sinning? He goes, yes. And the reason why God calls it a sin isn't because he hates you. It's because he loves you. It's not going to be satisfying for you. And he said something to the effect of, John, if your neighbor's grass is greener, water your own grass. See, I was spending my own life looking at somebody else's yard. I thought, man, their yard is greener. Their grass is greener. I wish I had their life. And Dad said, John, if their grass is greener, water your own yard. That's a call for you. It says you can be better. You can do more. He said, harvesting someone else's fields is far less satisfying than harvesting from the field that God has given to you, even if their field is bigger. I just feel like there's a lot of people, especially in today's society, we look at other people's lives on social media and in other places, and we just admire, and then we kind of slip into this place called envy, into this place called coveting, where we just start thinking, boy, I really wish I had their life. Have you ever been there? Oh, if I just had their job, if I just had their life, if I just had their marriage, I would be happy. And this is something, it's kind of a little dirty secret that I think so many of us, we struggle with it, don't we? We think about it, we fall asleep at night just thinking, if I just had that, if I just had this, I would be happy. And the truth is, no, you would not be. Because God didn't make you for that life. He made you for your life. And I think when we spend time looking at their grass, it only increases the problem because it causes us to neglect our own fields even more. I've got a key passage today. It comes from Paul's writing in the book of Galatians chapter 6. We're going to look at verses 7, 8, and 9. Okay? It says, don't be misled. You can't mock the justice of God. You will always harvest what you plant. Those who live only to satisfy their own nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature, but those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. I want to flip back to verse 7 here, right at the start. It says, you will always harvest what you plant. Another translation says, what you sow is what you reap. Some of us have heard that statement before in life. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty fundamental. We get it. If you plant seeds of bitterness, what are you going to harvest? Bitterness. If you plant seeds of jealousy, you'll harvest abundant mistrust and jealousy and unforgiveness. If you plant with seeds of anger, you'll harvest a crop of suspicion, malice, and hate, right? Because what you sow is what you reap. We know this. But, thank God, but it goes both ways. But if you plant seeds of love, you'll harvest a crop of love. And we've seen people, right? Loving people, they harvest love in return, right? My wife is one of those people. If you plant with seeds of forgiveness, you'll harvest a crop of peace and mercy. And if you plant seeds of hope, you'll harvest a crop of joy and hope for the future. How many times have you seen somebody who's got a bit of a dysfunctional life, a lot of bitterness in their life, say, oh, I need to get out of here. I need to run away to a new city. I need to run away to a new marriage. I need to run away to this new place. And if I get to this new place, things are going to be different, right? If I get to this new land, I'll harvest a different crop. The problem is 6 months to a year later, you always see them, and they're in the exact same situation that they were in before. It's just a different place with different characters, right? But same harvest, same crop, because what you sow is what you reap, right? That's the way that it goes. What you sow is what you reap. And you don't have to be a Christian to know that Jesus teaches the truth here. I mean, 2,000 years ago, Jesus gave us these words, what you sow is what you reap. I mean, this was absolutely transformational, wasn't it? It was a big deal when he brought these. Today, it's just like we know this, right? But these words would transform how the world would live. You see, in the Roman Empire, there was this mentality that wealth came, blessing came, prosperity came from taking it from other people. Might made right, okay? They believe that you take what you want. If you want it, you take it. That's how you become wealthy, is taking from other people. And Jesus taught this fundamentally different mentality. He said, no. You don't have to take what you want. You can make what you want. See, Jesus in this statement laid the foundations for a capitalist world. He said, wealth can be generated by working hard. And today we're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, you make what you want. You work hard, you want a good life, you can earn it, you can do it. That whole American dream, that came from Jesus bringing this fundamentally new mentality to the West. No one in the West had understood or taught this concept before, that what you reap is what you sow. This was transformational. I think there's a lot of people here today who have fallen back into this mentality. Relationally, I got to take it if I want it. I got to get it. I got to conquer it. And today I just want to speak to people who are struggling, who are hurting, who are lonely. And I want to show you a clear path to making the relationship you've always wanted instead of taking it today. Now, to get there, I want to take a little bit of an unorthodox course. You're going to be like, why is he talking about this? I'll get there. I always do, guys. But I want to start by talking about this guy named Thomas Malthus from the 1700s, okay? He was this pastor who invented this concern. You ever met people who invent concerns? They invent problems. He invented this problem called a population bomb. He said, what's going to happen is a population is going to keep growing, and we only have so much land on planet Earth. We're going to run out of farmable land to produce food for the population. So eventually everybody's going to starve. We got to stop having kids. That's what Thomas said. I was like, come on, I read that. That's a bummer. Well, anyway, nobody listened to him because in the 1700s there was a lot of land left over. But in the 1970s, there was this guy named Paul Ehrlich. Some of you guys literally remember this guy because he was famous. He was on all the Tonight Show and whatever and Johnny Carson and all that stuff. And he went around saying, we're going to run out of food. Everybody needs to stop having kids. Life stinks. The world's going to get overpopulated. There's going to be wars. There were movies made about this. There were books made about this. Some of you guys are smiling because you remember this. You're older than me, but you remember this, right? And he said, you got to stop having kids. He famously got sterilized after having one kid, which at that time was like, I can't believe he did that. He essentially said, life stinks. It is what it is. And this is a large reason. Right after World War II, post-World War II America, the average family size was 5 children. That's a lot of kids today. It used to be that was just normal, 5 kids. Okay. During the promulgation of his teaching and his fame, the family size shrunk from 5 kids to 2.23 kids per family. I mean, it just dropped like a stone. And it wasn't because of a culture change in America. It was because people were afraid their kids would starve. They said, man, farmers are the most important job in the world. We need to feed the world. We're going to run out of land and whatever. And listen, in the meantime, there were others who acknowledged that we had a population problem. But instead of saying it is what it is, they said, what if we find a way to farm better? What if we find a way to produce more food? What if we can find a solution within this? We can't just say, well, it's over. We got to stop it. It is what it is. In the 1950s in this area, which is some of the best farmland in the world, you were lucky to harvest 100 bushel an acre of feed corn. Like that was a good year, 100 bushel an acre. And what's interesting is that today in the same area, statewide, the 2017 average harvest was 180 bushel per acre. And in this area on good land, you could get over 200 bushel an acre. And that's wild. Okay? Not only can we harvest more, but we can do it faster and more efficiently, right? Because the combines get more of the corn, the heads are more efficient, the heads are more rows at a time, the combines can move forward more quickly. Even in impoverished countries, wheat yields have doubled. And this is so remarkable because instead of running out of food, we now actually have a food oversupply. I remember as a kid, we used to have worldwide starvation issues. And we still have local geopolitical starvation issues caused by geopolitical issues, but we actually overproduce food for the world. And we don't have a starvation problem. We actually have a obesity epidemic, which is wild. Nobody expected this. And as the population grew, we ended up producing more food per person instead of less. Now, of all the inventions in the 20th century, I actually think this is the most remarkable, right? Everybody's like, smartphones, internet, blah, blah, blah. This one, nobody talks about it. But listen, you wouldn't care about your smartphone if you were starving to death, right? It's a big deal. It's pretty cool that this has happened. It's truly remarkable. In one generation, our yields doubled because a bunch of people were focused on solving a problem. Farmers and food scientists, they saved the world through focus. And they specifically did 3 things. They focused on land. They said, we got to find a way to manage the land better, okay? We have to make this land produce more. Secondly, they studied the seeds, and they actually bred seeds. They crossbred seeds that would produce more. They made these hybrid seeds just by crossbreeding, not like scientific voodoo magic. They just crossbred seeds, and the seeds produce more. And finally, they invented a whole new field of science called genetic crop science. Now, I know there are some of you here today who say, well, GMOs are scary, especially online. I'll probably get some comments about genetic GMO foods. And I understand that you have a fear that is rooted in absolutely no substantiated research that indicates GMOs have ever harmed a human. But I understand that fear is there. And let's just pretend, even though they don't, that GMOs killed thousands of people, which they don't. They do not. But let's pretend that they do. You're forgetting about the literally billions with a B of people who would have starved to death had it not been for these innovations in our lives. This is a huge, huge and amazing deal. You see, these 3 things were rooted in the clear pursuit of one goal. A bunch of people who said, this doesn't have to be the way it is. We believe that there can be better. Okay? Now, there were some people in your life, in our lives, who said, it is what it is. You ever have people like that in your life? Do me a favor. Don't be my friend, okay? It is what it is. I'm just a realist. It's just, we have to accept this. And there are others who say, we can make a way where there is no way. We refuse to accept this as the brutal reality. We think that we can overcome this, and we acknowledge this is a problem, but we're going to overcome this. And in one generation, they transformed the world. Now, I'm talking about this because I really believe that the same thing is happening right now in relationships. Okay? We live in a world where people are deeply and profoundly relationally dissatisfied. Now, it correlates perfectly with the fall of each generation following Christ, right? The less a generation follows with Christ or follows Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, the more relationally dissatisfied and emotionally unstable they are. Like, that's real, okay? But I think we live in an era where we have lots of people who are deeply, deeply unsatisfied. People are leaving for greener grass. Kids are more lonely and less happy than ever despite being wealthier and healthier. I think in the midst of this, there needs to be some people who say, this doesn't need to be this way. I know the rest of the world might believe this thing. The rest of the world might believe Paul Elric. The rest of the world might believe disaster is coming. But I believe that God can do something in the life that we have. I believe that God can make this land fertile again. To people who are hurting and broken, I want you to hear this as we jump into this. Don't give up on your marriage. It's not over yet. This can be healed. God is not calling you to greener grass. He's calling you to water the grass that He gave you. If you don't like what you're getting, I want to start by looking at what we're giving. Now, if you want to feed the world, you got to pursue better farming practices, right? And if you want better relationships, you got to pursue it. You have to pursue it. And that's my main point today. It's one simple point. I want you to be pursuers. I want you to pursue. If you want to win at something, you have to chase after victory. If you want something, you got to work for it. You can't just whine your way out of a bad marriage. You can't just grumpy Facebook post about your spouse all day long and expect healing. And I think the biggest enemy to better relationships in marriages is this mentality of, oh, it's just always going to be this way. I don't deserve to be hurt again. He doesn't deserve me to pursue him. He needs to take the first step. It'll never get better. It's always going to be this way. It is what it is. And Jesus actually speaks to this. In Luke 6, verse 30, He says, give to anyone who asks, and when things are taken away from you, don't try to get them back. This is what He's saying, is it's a covenant, not a contract, right? We talked about that 2 weeks ago. It's a covenant, not a contract. If Kristen divorces me, I'm waiting for her. If she leaves, I'm coming with her. If she cheats on me, I'm forgiving her, right? If she lies to me, I'm going to choose to trust her again in the future. I am not going to return tit for tat in our marriage because it's a covenant, not a contract. The next part of the passage is even better to me, okay? This is a transformative verse, maybe one of the best verses in the Bible about relationships. Jesus says, do to others as you would like them to do to you. This is, by the way, the definition of pursuit to me. When I look at what pursuing is, it's treating somebody the way that you wish they would treat you. It's initiating and treating them and pursuing them the way that you wish that they would treat you. And if my generation could understand this, I think my generation would not be lonely and dysfunctional. This is why my generation is so lonely, is we don't understand how to do this. We just sit at home waiting for someone to initiate. Oh, I wish somebody would text me. Oh, I wish somebody would reach out to me. I just wish one person would give me their super like today, right? Oh, I just wish he would tell me how much he loves me. I just wish he would pursue me. I wish she would come on to me for once. I wish she would show an interest in my hobbies. Question for each of these. Do you do that for them? Do you treat them the way that you want to be treated? It's crazy to me that my generation sits at home all alone feeling lonely, but we won't treat someone the way that we wish they would treat us, right? Do you treat your spouse the way that you want to be treated? I know it sounds simple, but it needs to be said because I know so many people who wish that their spouse would just admit that they were wrong. I just wish my spouse would admit that they were wrong for once. Do you admit that you're wrong quickly, humbly, and completely without expecting anything in return, without holding grudges? Do you forgive quickly, right? Do you treat your spouse the way that you want to be treated? I know so many people who just wish that their friends would text them and reach out to them and ask them how they're doing, right? I just wish I had one friend who, do you reach out to people? Do you initiate selfless conversations where you genuinely seek to know them and understand them and care for them, where you listen without expectation of anything in return? Do you treat people the way that you want to be treated? If you're married today, this is what God is calling you to in your land. This is your tool to make the grass greener. It's pursuit. I want you to set your mind to this and say, I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to work the land. I will pursue them because this is a covenant, not a contract. And the big one is, I will treat them the way that I wish I was treated by them. You don't need people to give up on you. We have a world that loves contracts. We have a world that doesn't demonstrate this kind of love. And guess what? It doesn't lead to life satisfaction. This is why Christians are satisfied, is because we follow the teachings of Jesus, which are good, and they lead to a better life. Now, my main point is pursue, but I've actually got 3 subpoints about what pursuit actually looks like in a relationship, okay? And my first point, if you want pursuit to work, is you got to make better land. You got to make better land. And to me, the land of a relationship, the land in which a relationship grows is time. okay? Galatians chapter 6, verse 7, it says, don't be misled, you can't mock the justice of God. You will always harvest what you plant. Question, can you get a harvest if you don't plant anything? No. Can you get a harvest if you don't have any land? No, okay? Land is a pretty big barrier to entry when it comes to farming. Listen, can you have a great relationship if you don't have any time together? No, because time is where a relationship grows. And without time, without land, your relationship isn't going to work. I know so many couples who are like, yeah, we used to be in such love. We just loved each other so much, okay? And we spent all of our waking hours together, and now we've fallen out of love, and we don't spend any time together. I don't know what happened. I do. You don't have any land anymore, right? Because relationships grow in the land of time. My wife and I are committed to time together. We're committed to spending time together. And I got a question for you on this point. Do you have time together? Okay? We make sure that we have several date nights a month. We focus on each other after 8 p.m. each night. That's our goal. We focus on each other each night. We make every second count. And we have a busy life. I'm not going to lie. We got events, every night of the week. We have an active ministry life. I have a full-time job. We have 4 young kids that are so needy. And I don't know if my kids are more needy than your kids, but it sure feels like that, okay? I have a full-time job. We still have time for each other because we prioritize one another. We pull our kids out of activities because we didn't have time for each other, right? So we just made a decision. My relationship with Kristen is more important than our relationship with our kids, right? So we pull them out of activities. We got rid of TV. We don't do Netflix. We don't have hobbies except for water skiing, which is a way of life. Hello. You can make time for each other. I know so many couples who say, oh, we just don't have the time. Make it. Make it. And if your spouse isn't proactive and you think, oh, I wish my spouse would make time for me, you chase after it. You treat them the way that you want to be treated. You make time for them according to their schedule and their way. No, she needs to do it my way. No, you do it their way. That's pursuit. That's what it looks like. Second question is your time quality? This is a big deal. You can plant lots of land. You can throw seeds all over all kind of land. But if you don't maintain the land, if you don't put fertilizer on the crops, if you don't spray the crops, you're not going to have a very big harvest. Kristen and I are committed to maintaining our land. This looks like, and this is hard, this is big. I know some of you are going to have a conniption when I say this. We got to put the cell phones down. You got to put them down. And this is hard for us to do, right? I want to answer emails, and I want to respond quickly, and I want to make sure we keep our fast response time on Facebook. It all matters, right? But we put them down. It's 2018, so we actually have to silence our watches. This is actually a problem in our house, but you have to silence our watch. It's like Dick Tracy, for real. All the young people are like, what's Dick Tracy? Is he Marvel? No, guys, way better, way better. Okay? This looks like eye contact, man. Eye contact. Look at your wife in the eyes as she's talking and just nod your head. Okay? You don't even have to really listen that closely, but if her voice goes like this, you just, and then if it's, that's what I do. This looks like both of us asking questions. Okay? Kristen is like conversational cocaine. She is so good at asking questions. I could talk to her all day long. She just asks me questions, and I'm like, oh, this feels so good, right? But what I realized is I love her asking questions, but am I treating her the way that I wanted to be treated, right? And I'm not as good at it, so I actually have to prepare ahead of time to ask my wife questions, okay? I come up with a bunch of ammo in my head. I'm like, these are the things. I'm going to ask her about this and this and this and this, and how are the kids, whatever, right? And then I get out of my car, and I have my little bank of questions so that I can make sure that I'm treating her the way that I want to be treated. That's quality time. Okay, this next one is for married people. If you are not married, this is not for you. But if you are married, quality time includes sex together. It's funny. This is so important. God calls married people to have sex regularly. He says this is a gift to married people that I've given you. And by the way, people who follow God's plan for sexuality by waiting until they're married and living in monogamy in the context of a marriage have the highest level of sexual satisfaction. But if this is not a healthy part of your marriage, then there's dysfunction here. Communicate and get help. This is part of watering the lawn. And I want you to understand, I think most husbands feel primarily loved through sex. And married people, I want you to know that your spouse, you are their only legitimate outlet for sex. And I haven't talked about this at all in this series, and I probably should have spent more time on it, but I just feel like there's some dysfunction going on today in this area. And I just want to call couples who need help to get it. Now, I know lots of couples who have a ton of time together, okay? You got lots of land, but you don't put any seeds in it. You just spend all your time watching reruns of Deadliest Catch and, Gold Rush episodes that are, marathons and whatever. And that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's awesome. But listen, there's more to life than Fortnite. Spend time with each other, okay? You don't have a relationship because you're not putting seeds in the ground. If your time is not quality, kindly ask your spouse for a change of course. But treat them the way that you want to be treated. This means you lead the way. This means you do it first. This means you pursue and cultivate. You can't demand a harvest. Okay? I think a lot of husbands and wives think you can demand a harvest from your spouse. You need to love me more. I need more time with you. Think about it this way. Can you go to an apple tree and say, you need to give me more apples now? Okay? I planted you. Okay? We are in a covenant. You owe me apples now. That's not going to work, right? What do you do if you want more apples from an apple tree? You cultivate it. You put fertilizer down. You water it. You put another apple tree by it so it cross-pollinates and blah, blah, blah. And eventually you'll reap a harvest. Eventually. It's silly. You can't instantly demand apples from an apple tree. I think so many people, they're like, Pastor, I tried all the advice you gave me for 1 week and it didn't work, so I'm done. No. This is a season of faithfulness. If you want to see a greater yield from a tree, it's going to take years of faithfulness. And you will reap a harvest in return, but it takes time, guys. It takes faithfulness. You cultivate, you fertilize, you water. Third question here, is Jesus the Lord of your time together? Early in mine and my wife's marriage, we actually had a ton of fun. We had a ton of time together. And we really did love each other. But at the end of each day, I'm going to tell you, there was something that was fundamentally unfulfilling. And it was puzzling because we had so much fun together and we were perfect for each other and blah, 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 blah. But we didn't feel fulfilled because it doesn't offer life. Because our marriage was an idol and God did not design us to be fulfilled in that. He designed us to be fulfilled in Him. And you know it's true. Okay? Verse 8, it says, those who live only to satisfy their sinful nature will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. You don't need to be a Christian to understand this is true. Okay? All my relatives are atheists. And guess what? They're all rich and loaded and super successful and fundamentally unfulfilled. It's real. Like, you see this in their lives. And they'll even talk about it, right? I have everything I ever wanted, but I don't have what I know I really need, and I don't know what it is. Right? That's the truth about life. God created us for more. He created us to worship and serve and love Him. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. Eventually, we started using the fruit of our marriage to love and serve Jesus. This is harder, and it takes more discipline, but we love it. And today, we're busier than ever, but we're also more fulfilled than ever. Here's my second point. Select better seeds. The seeds of relationship are words, okay? Words. The words that you use are the seeds that you plant. Don't be misled. You can't mock the justice of God. You always harvest what you plant. If you don't like what's growing up in your marriage, what are you planting with your words? It's simple, but it needs to be said. I feel like for a lot of marriages, the words that are planted are inadequacy, failure, and mistrust. You always do this. Do you understand the side of our bed is not a laundry hamper? You always just leave your clothes on the floor for the love. You never can get ready on time. You never come on, right? What do you think you're going to harvest if that's what you're planting? Okay? What are you going to harvest of that? I see this so clearly in raising my kids. Kids are like a mirror of your own personal defects. I've been on my oldest about whining all the time. Whining. She's whining. Look at her. I'm like, why do you whine all the time? It's so annoying when you do this. Please, for the love, just stop whining and start doing. And my wife was like, John, you are reaping a harvest of discouragement and whining because that's what you're planting. That's what you're planting in your life. You're literally reaping what you harvest. I was like, oh, thank you for that. So I changed my strategy very defensively, but eventually I did. I said, Izzy, I'm so proud of your resilience. I love it. I love the way you show your siblings what hard work and a good attitude looks like. You are a great example as an older sister. And all of a sudden, she just like ran to the dishwasher to do her chores without whining. I was like, it's a miracle. What you sow is what you reap. I was like, really? Does this work other places? Kristen, I love your cooking. I love the way you cook what I like instead of what Grandpa wants or what the kids want. I love that you always cook my favorite all the time. Hello, yes, it worked. Kristen, I appreciate you touching me. It means so much to me when you touch me when we talk. Hello, back rubs and scalp massage. Yes. This one, new one. Kristen, I love how selfless you are about my water skiing. Do you let me go whenever I want, as often as I want, with whomever I want? That's so cool. She's like, no, it doesn't work there. If your relationship is not what you want it to be, I'd ask you, what seeds are you planting? If you're lonely and nobody is talking and you're staring out these barren fields, right? We went on a date last night and it was terrible. Just clink, clink, clink. What's with him? Hey, you can initiate a relationship. You can plant seeds as well, right? Two people can initiate a conversation. If you're bickering all the time, are you planting seeds of peace by admitting that you're wrong and not being defensive? If you struggle with bickering, you're probably being defensive right now because that's something people struggle with who struggle with bickering. You're probably like, they need to do it too. Yes, they do. I won't lie. They probably do. But are you treating them how you want to be treated? Are you initiating by planting seeds of peace? Victorious people, world-changing people pursue victory. They chase after it. They don't just get it. They don't just wait for others to do it. They chase after it. If you don't feel pursued through conversation, are you planting seeds of pursuit by asking questions, by seeking to know them regardless of how they treat you? Two people can initiate pursuit. And I'm going to be honest. I think it is the man's job to pursue in a Christian relationship. Men are called to be the pastor, provider, pursuer, and protector. Those are our 4 tasks as husbands and fathers. But listen, if your man isn't doing it, you can do it, girls. I'm telling you, you can. Okay? Ephesians 5:21 tells us we can submit to each other. We both can do it. I think so many people in this series, one of the disappointing side effects of the series has been, I've had a lot of people say after we talked about counting the cost, after we talked about mate selection, they were like, yeah, pastor was right. I selected the wrong person. And now I'm in a marriage. I married the wrong person, right? That's what this series has really spoken to me. It's like, no, that is not what this is about, okay? If you're not married, you're not in a covenant, and you don't like it, run, Forrest, run. But if you are married, you are in a covenant. Stop making me want to quit my job, okay? Get the hose out, get the till out, and work the land. Plant better seeds. Grow a harvest, and listen, don't give up. You don't give up. You can work on this. You can make it. God can work through. You can lay down your life for your spouse. I think one of the biggest marriage problems I see are people planting poisonous seeds, right, to produce an abundance of poison in your marriage, or planting no seeds at all. If you want to harvest, you have to plant seeds. You have to pursue. And number 2, change your seed if you want a bigger harvest. Change your seed if you don't like what you're harvesting. My third point is really simple. You got to develop better tools. And we spoke about time. We spoke about words. And right now I want to speak about actions. Okay? This is the genetic crop science of marriage. You do this when the relationship is good, but this is especially good when the relationship is bad. Sometimes we men have a tendency to make our wives really mad. Okay? I've done this in my marriage from time to time where she doesn't want to talk to me or look at me or see me, right? And when that happens, this is the only lever that remains to you. This is where acts of service and gifts are really, really important. And just like plant scientists recognize the fundamental shortfalls in crop production, and they develop tools to modify the plants, gifts and acts of service are levers that you can pull when you can't get time or words. And you should also include these when times are good, but they're especially good when times are bad. You need to be careful about how you use them, though. Okay, this is kind of a big deal. Modifying genetics in a plant is kind of a big deal. Like, you wouldn't do it without having a fundamental understanding of the genome of the plant, right? That would be risky, dangerous, and at the very least, a waste of time and money if you didn't understand how it worked. Gifts and acts of service require you to study the person, to know them, right? I think the best kind of gifts, the best kind of acts of service, it's when you perceive their need before they understand that they need it. That's the best kind of gift. And I'm just going to admit, full disclosure here, this is what I'm worst at, okay? Really? And these 3 things, I'm real bad at this one. And I've always been great with words. Gosh, I sure can talk. But I've struggled with this. And here's one of my big problems is I get my wife gifts or acts of service, but it's usually about me. Like, somehow I make it a selfish thing. Like, I'll give her a gift, and I'm excited to receive my response. Or I'll empty the dishwasher, and I'll be like, hello, why aren't you going to tell me, take me to bed, or lose me forever? Like, hello, come on. You know? Where's my, okay. And I now realize that this isn't about her. And this isn't about me. This is about my love and devotion to Jesus, right? Because this is a covenant, not a contract. This is me loving my wife. It doesn't really have to do with my wife. It has to do with me loving Jesus. It's part of my submission and service and love to Jesus. I've begun to learn that the gifts are about him and the results don't matter as much. I used to give a gift, and if she didn't love it, I'd be like, how could you not love it? I took the time to wrap it in Amazon Prime boxes with duct tape. You know? I mean, I really went all out here, honey. But now I see that, man, gifts are hit or miss for the person, and every gift is just about me showing the love of Jesus for her. And I see a much more abundant harvest because of these things, as I show her the comprehensiveness of my love. And I know there's some of you here today who are like, well, my spouse needs to do something for me. And I understand that. I understand how that feels. But I challenge you to treat them how you want to be treated consistently. It's a covenant, not a contract. This is not about their reaction. It's about your faithfulness and love for Jesus. Now, I want to show you the last verse in this passage. We looked at verses 7 and 8 of Galatians chapter 6. But the last verse, it really hit me this week as I was preparing this message. I thought, this is the capstone of the series. This is the keystone to the whole series. This is the one you put on your dashboard when times are good and when times are bad. This is what you remember and memorize and write on your heart. This is so powerful to me. Verse 9 says, so let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. And I want to close this series by saying to people who are struggling and hurting in covenant relationships, don't give up. Don't give up. You don't give up on your prodigal son or daughter. You don't give up. Don't get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, you will reap a harvest of blessing if you don't give up. Don't give up. To the husband or wife who is tired, I want you to hear this. Do not stop doing what is good. This isn't about them. This is about your love for Jesus. At just the right time, you will reap a harvest if you don't give up. I don't care if you're separated. Even if he's already filed for divorce. It's not done yet. Don't give up. This is a covenant, not a contract. And this is why I say to single people, don't begin until you count the cost, right? If you're not in a covenant relationship and it's hard, you get out. But married people, you don't give up. This is a covenant. And it might feel dead. But this isn't the end of your story, because last time I checked, we serve a God who has the power to raise the dead. Some of you might say, but Pastor, you don't know how hard it is. You don't know how hard this marriage is. You don't know what it feels like. It's easy for you to say, listen, I might not know how hard your relationship is. I'll acknowledge that, but I want you to understand Jesus knows exactly how it feels. But God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners, while we were at our worst. As we shouted, crucify him, he loved us unconditionally. And then he said, a new command I give to you. Love one another in the same way that I have loved you. So you must love one another. In the same way that I received your insults and your curses and died on your behalf. And I will never give up on you. So you must love one another. That is covenant love. That is what it looks like. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Don't get tired of doing what is good. Plant the seeds. You work the land. If your neighbor's grass is greener, you take care of your lawn. I want each of you think of one area in your life where this message is showing a shortcoming in your life. Pursue your spouse. Prioritize one another with your time, with your words, and with your actions. What's one area where you say, you know what, this week I want to focus on that? I want to ask everybody to stand as we get ready to close here. I'd like to ask everybody in the room just to stand up. I want to ask married people. I know this is probably strange for some of you. For some of you, it's no big deal. But I want to ask married people to hold hands. If you're married, I don't care if you've been fighting all night, like this morning, just have the courage to hold hands. I don't care if you've been separated, like find your spouse, hold their hand. Push your kids out of the way. So let us not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. I want to challenge married people to look at their spouse and say, I'm never giving up on you. I will never give up on you. I want you to do that today at some point. That's what marriage is, right? For better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness, in health, till death do us part. I'm never giving up on you. I will never give up on you. I want to close with a word of prayer for all relationships. I just ask you to pray with me. Lord Jesus, I just lift up all relationships in this church today. I lift up broken father-son relationships, mother-daughter relationships. I lift up hurting friendships. I lift up hurting marriages. I lift up all marriages to you. Jesus, I ask that you would make First Church a place where people seek your commands in our lives and your blessing in our lives above everything else. I ask that we would love one another in the same way that you've loved us, that we would seek you first, and that we would not get tired of doing what is good. I ask that at just the right time, we would receive your promise of a harvest of blessing. And I just ask that we would never give up. In the name of Jesus, all God's people said,